So this morning I'd like to talk to you about an issue that is crucial to student success and faculty, researcher success, and therefore important to One MSU. And that is access to research journals and what libraries struggle with, particularly in this state, and how we are trying to improve the situation to give more access. I'm hearing an echo.
You're fine.
I'm okay?
You're fine. It sounds great.
Okay. So, research journals, scholarly journals, we all know they're important, but let's just review a few of the reasons why they're important. So they document and give credit to ideas of researchers. Manual advance, there we go. They certify the validity of ideas through peer review. They support the promotion and tenure process. Are you doing that?
I'm doing it.
Okay. They are required for program accreditation. Your disciplinary programs will not be accredited without the proper research journals to support them. One more. And finally, they help draw research funding in an indirect way, but I'll give you an example of that. And in the spring, Jessica Windyboy, who is the director of the Advanced Fuels Center here at Northern, sent an email to Chancellor Cagle that he forwarded to Provost Potvin and eventually made it to me. And basically what she said is that her faculty don't have access to the scientific journals that they need. And she gave a very stark example of why that hurts us. They received comments back from a research proposal to the NSF, and all of the reviewers made the same comment, which was that the proposal writers had failed to cite two researchers who had published major works in the field. And as a result, that proposal, I believe, was not funded. And so this was a problem. This is where it very directly hurts us when we don't have access to the right research journals. Ultimately, in this particular case, we were able to help. Bozeman renegotiated a contract with Elsevier, and were able to provide some of the access to some of the journals that Jessica and her faculty need. But this scenario plays itself out over and over across campuses in Montana and across disciplines. We run into this problem all the time. So maybe a little bit hard to see this, but scholarly publishing life cycle, as I'm sure you know, works this way. A faculty member comes up with an idea and submits a proposal, and then hopefully receives grant funding. They conduct the research, they write up the research, they publish the research in an article in a journal, and then the journal is sold back to libraries. So what's the problem with that? The problem is that taxpayers are paying twice for this, right? They fund, got one more? They fund the grants that support the research, and then taxpayers, through the money that libraries get, pay again to get access to that research. This is a problem that we're stuck in, and we're stuck in at least for the foreseeable future. And it might be okay if not for the fact that prices of journals have increased at an astonishing rate over the last 25 years or so. This is a study from the Association of Research Libraries, which demonstrates that costs of journals have increased 400% in the period from 1986 to 2011, 400%, while the Consumer Price Index has only gone up 100%. This is why libraries struggle. So the particular challenge to Montana academic libraries is that we may well be the last state in the nation that doesn't have a consortium of academic libraries. And because we don't have a consortium, we don't have buying club power. Most of us are negotiating individually with publishers to gain access to journals, and that doesn't work in this day and age. It also creates this disparity of access across the state. So if you're a student at MSU Bozeman, You're doing pretty well. You have access to about 15,000 journals. If you're a student at Little Bighorn College, you maybe have access to about 100 journals. So those are, in this state at least, opposite ends of the spectrum, and all of the rest of the campuses fall somewhere along that spectrum. The other problem that we have that goes along with this is that we have aging library management software. Currently, there's a system that's run at MSU Bozeman that supports 9 other institutions on this side of the state, and University of Montana runs a similar system to support about 7 institutions on their side of the state. Both of them are very old systems, bought in the late 1990s, and they really are preventing us from cooperatively building collections at the moment. So there's a lot of duplication going on, right? UM is buying the same materials that we're buying, and vice versa in many cases. So let's talk about some of the benefits of having a consortium. Just some anecdotal examples, actually a little bit more than anecdotal. Pascal is the library consortium in South Carolina. And Pascal has done a study that shows that they are able to leverage by more than 5 times the overall purchasing power of every dollar spent to reduce costs. In Louisiana, there's a consortium called Lewis, and they have been able to leverage it to the point of providing $8 worth of value for every dollar spent on Louisiana's colleges and universities. In Texas, which is a very large consortium, they've been able to pull down $84 million worth of resources, databases, and journals for about $7.2 million. And the value of a consortium, you can see, is powerful. In Ohio, Ohio Link has been able to secure lower prices than any other U.S. library group for the 10 most used electronic journals. And they've also been able to keep inflationary costs low. And finally, Galileo in Georgia, it's a consortium there. If you're a member of Galileo, the lowest price you're going to pay for an article, according to this study in 2010-11, is 14 cents per article. If you're not a member of Galileo, the lowest possible price you can get per article is $5.25. Now, if you have ever come across an article that your library doesn't own, you know that the real cost is a lot more. It's usually about $30 to $40 per article is about the average that we see. But this is the lowest cost. So here's what we've been doing. All of the academic libraries in Montana for the last 3 years have been discussing this problem and coming to an agreement, and we are working hard on 2 fronts. One is to build that consortium, to create that legal organization that will allow us to then negotiate with publishers on behalf of all of the academics in the state. So we have come up with a name, Treasurer State Academic Information and Library Services, or TRAILS. We have a draft MOU. We have an entire site of documentation. I think in 2016 we'll be able to formally launch our consortium. At the moment, the MOU is making its way through MSU Legal Counsel, and then it has to be distributed to the other campuses as well to make sure that they're all okay with it. But this has been, I mean, that may seem like a minimal amount of accomplishment, but it's, these conversations take a long time, right? There are cultural reasons, and you heard some of those reasons expressed yesterday about why campuses might not be willing to work together. And it just takes multiple conversations over a long period of time to get everybody comfortable with becoming part of a consortium. The second prong of our approach is to purchase a next generation library services platform technology. This is the technology that helps us with all of the basic functions of a library, whether it's acquiring materials, cataloging them, circulating them, providing access to them. So we, in the summer, launched a request for proposals on behalf of the Montana University system. And this will bring us to a next generation cloud-based technology that will allow us to work much more cooperatively together, to build collections much more cooperatively and efficiently, and ultimately provide that click-through access to any electronic resource for any student or faculty member in the state. So that RFP is now in the scoring process. We hope in the next few weeks to have a vendor selected. Then we have to figure out if we can afford it, right? This is the chicken and egg problem. All along this process we've been asked, well, how much is this going to cost? We don't really know until the RFP is out there, until the bids come back, right? We've made some educated guesses on how much it might cost. But the other part of the cost that you have to keep in mind is the benefit that we're going to gain from purchasing resources collectively, right? I can't promise that we're going to save money. I will not promise that we're going to save money, but I will promise that we're going to provide much more access and much more efficient use of dollars. So what we really need from you is help, support, to support this concept of a consortium, support us all working together, make it clear to your faculty and your administrators and your library directors that this is the way we want to head. Because if we don't cooperate, this problem of inflationary costs and not being able to work together is only going to get worse. We're ultimately just going to pay a lot more for this than we need to. So help us tell the story to your faculty, to your administrators, to OCHI, the Board of Regents, and legislators. I think that's it. That's us. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, cost-wise, can you break down the cost a little bit so we kind of know what?
For the technology. So there are ongoing subscription costs, and there are implementation fees. The implementation fees are one time. Again, ballpark, we don't really know for sure. We're guessing that the annual subscription costs will be $300,000 to $500,000 for the entire state for this technology. The one-time implementation fees, probably about $500,000, maybe as much as $700,000 or $800,000. And what you have to keep in mind is that the libraries are already currently collectively paying $300,000 a year for the technology that we have. Okay? So it's not actually that big a gap.
But there is a pretty big gap.
It is a gap.
So that funding, what's your idea on that?
We did put in a proposal to the legislature in the last session. It was approved by the Board of Regents. In fact, it was approved at a meeting here at the Board of Regents, and then it did not make it to the governor's budget. So that proposal failed. We have been trying to set money aside to help with this, but it is going to be a struggle. But it's a, you pay now or you pay a lot more later kind of issue.
And Kenny did a great job in the presentation here. And I tried to muster more support in OCHI. And when that didn't happen, then afterwards, when we received the $50 million research initiative, I tried to say, well, let's shave this off the top. It was about $1.1 million. But it would have benefited everybody. And in my mind, it's so closely related to research, right? But I didn't have much support on the other side of the divide.
Mm-hmm.
And until that happens, right, until we can come together as a unified front, it's very difficult because making its way to the legislature, there's so much noise. There's so many competing projects. So I think it's important, as Kenny said, not only for us to have these conversations among the MSU family, but also your counterparts in the University of Montana system, so that they know that this is part and parcel. And if we are really going to be successful in future research initiatives, then we need to provide faculty with the tools they need. And this is one of the most important ones that they need to have in their toolbox.
So do our students. Our
Yeah.
students.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And the issue of the very small colleges, we still get transfer students from those colleges, right? So if for their first 2 years they've not had access to these information resources, they come to our campuses at a disadvantage. Other questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate your support.